Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
I would recommend Angel Care to anybody. They have really helped me regain my strength.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
I couldn't have survived this without Angels Care.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks to our producer, Jeff Durall. We're at Custer Hall, third floor, the campus of Fort Hays State University, with the director of the Docking Institute at Public Affairs at Fort Hays State, Dr. Gary Brinker, as we talk about a presentation that Dr. Brinker did in Fort Worth, Texas, to the Rural Health Journalism Workshop. And Dr. Brinker, tell us what happened there and why the presentation, would you?
Well, this group of journalists asked me to give a presentation on the differences between rural and urban. Actually, they are concerned with rural across the United States, but all I've really studied is Kansas. So I presented some analysis of some survey data of a survey that the Institute has been doing ever since 2009. Every fall we've done a survey that we call Kansas Speaks that I hope some of your viewers are aware of. It's been disseminated pretty thoroughly by the press, and so I took some survey questions that dealt oftentimes indirectly with health, because we always know that good nutrition, access to health care, good diet are things that are directly tied to health. But there's other things such as stress, economic deprivation, or even political alienation that can have an indirect effect on your health. And so that's kind of what I focused on, because that's kind of more of what we measure with the Kansas Speaks survey.
And the purpose of this was to help these journalists understand the differences between urban and rural that they may not have experience with then, Dr. Brinker?
Well, they were looking for ideas for stories, I think, was the main purpose that they were there. So yeah, they were looking for observations of the rural population that maybe they had not been aware of, or had not been thoroughly disseminated to their readers.
And as I mentioned, the Kansas Speaks that came out last year was really informative from a lot of different areas. You guys delve into a whole lot of different issues and areas and really get, I guess, kind of a pulse of what's Kansans are thinking.
That's the idea, is to let the whole purpose of it is to let mainly our legislators know what the people think. Of course, they get some feedback through the vote, but that feedback is not very specific. All it is a general, I approve of you or I don't. Kansas Speaks lets them know, well, what is it that you're doing that we like, and what is it that you're doing that we maybe don't like too much. So let the legislators know, and the people in general, to know, how Kansas feels about these issues. So, we ask about approval of the different candidates and elected officials, and then we also we'll measure, there's some main topics that deal with public policy that we hit every time. The economy, we always ask about that. But then we always follow up by asking several questions about issues that are sort of current.
Well, Dr. Brinker, let's get into more specifics.
And there have been a lot of those lately.
Oh boy, I'll say. Let's get into more specifics about what you told the journalists in differences between urban and rural residents, because you highlighted a few of those, but get into some more specifics for us.
Sure. One of the things we found when we measured just political orientation, we asked people to self-report whether you're basically a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican. And there's a tendency to think that the rural people are more Republican than the urban people, and that's one of the things we found was not true. There are roughly equal proportions of strong Republicans and Republicans in the rural and urban areas. The difference is that in the urban areas, they're more likely to be Democrats, and in the rural areas, they're more likely to be independents or independents-leaning Republican. So we found that difference. We also found generally the rural people are more supportive of their state representatives and senators, particularly that they're senators, than the people in the urban areas. We found stronger support for Chris Kobach, which is certainly understandable because, as we all know, Secretary Kobach has championed two things, immigration and voter fraud. And we did find that people in the rural areas are more concerned with immigration issues. But on the other hand, we also know that Secretary Kobach has pushed increased requirements for voter registration, and our research has showed that that has affected rural people disproportionately. In other words, rural people are less likely to report that they're able to access their birth certificate, which of course now is required to register to vote. Of course, we all know President Obama is not very popular in Kansas, and this is particularly true among the rural. We found that the rural tended to be less approving of President Obama and more approving of Governor Brownback, whereas the urbanites less likely to approve of Governor Brownback. So we did see that difference.
Are there any core reasons behind that Kansas Speaks addressed, Dr. Brinker?
No, you know, and that is puzzling. I mean, I know Kansans are conservatives and they are mostly Republican, but it does seem like the antipathy toward the president is more extreme than some might say he deserves. And so that is a good question. You know, he is a Democrat. That does explain some reason why he's unpopular.
It's interesting, though, in the case of Kobach, the Secretary of State, that, again, this is an example of what Thomas Frank was talking about, where many people in the state are actually supporting or going against their basic interest or their own outcome and situations, it seems.
It's interesting that you would say that, Mike, because I was just getting ready to mention that one of the things our research has shown is that you know, what we did is I actually worked with a student that presented this at a recent sociology conference we went to, where she looked at, on a county level, she looked at the percentage of people in the county that voted for Governor Brownback to re-elect Governor Brownback. And then she also analyzed the average difference in taxes that the average citizen of that county, because they were different. And what her research showed was that the higher the percentage of people in a county that voted for Governor Brownback, the more their taxes went up, which is
that's counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yes, it's a hypothesis that supports Mr. Frank's theory that for some reason rural Kansans in particular, they do tend to vote against they vote for people who turn around and shift the tax burden down to them, basically. Is
it a lack of following issues, information base? What's any
that's the question. Of course, you know, Mr. Frank pointed out that they vote for the social issues. They vote against abortion, they vote for guns, and they vote against alternative sexuality policies that favor those. And they just, I guess, the economic issue, they trump the economic issues.
They mask
some
of the basic day-to-day issues that they may be confronting.
Right, he's saying the social issues are more important to them, and so that's what ultimately determines who they vote for.
Okay.
And so the economic end, they may not like their taxes going up, but they're willing to accept that if we can keep, you know, reduce abortion, keep guns free, and support maybe also traditional marriage policies and things like that.
Take a moment, if you would, Dr. Brinker, to talk about the rural health care issues, because again, a matter of economics plays in here, where rural hospitals are under pressure, and part of that is because of lack of funding, lack of resources, which may be available to other urban areas. How did that play into your overall presentation?
Well, we did show that, as I said, Kansans are by a small margin in favor of Obamacare. A majority does not like President Obama, but a majority does want at least some components of Obamacare for Kansas. You know, there's two main issues: adopting a state exchange, and then also getting the expansion of Medicaid, which I guess is the bigger one. So you know, it's I mean, that's the big question. Is you know, the people seem to want Obamacare. They seem to want to expand these federal health care options in Kansas, but their legislators are against those, or at least the majority of them are.
Let's move, if we might, to Kansas Speaks itself. Another one coming this year?
That's our plan. Of course, our calling center is very busy right now, but we're going to try real hard to pencil in some time to do one. Probably in October. Well, we like to present the results in October, so we usually collect the data in September.
Well, we'll be looking forward to it for those of us who find it extremely interesting.
Okay.
Tell us a little, if you would, Dr. Brinker, about the Docking Institute and a little bit of its history.
Okay. The Institute is operated by and housed on the campus, of course, of Fort Hays State University here in Custer Hall. Our mission is to assist nonprofit entities, you know, people that are out there trying to further the public good, as well as government entities, mostly Kansas state government entities. We help the Kansas County Treasurers Association, and we do strategic planning, and so we just do research that is try to make the state
tailored
work better.
Tailored to whatever entity needs the services of the Docking Institute.
We've been around quite a while.
Yeah.
I arrived here in 2008, but the Institute has actually been around for about over 50 years now. It was originally the Fort Hays State Center for Public Policy, I think, but at some point, the legislature voted to rename it in honor of three Dockings, Robert Docking,
and the other two escaped.
Yeah, his father and his son.
Right, yeah. A long line of Dockings who served
they were
as
either governors or
representatives.
Or lieutenant governors.
Lieutenant governors then. And how's the funding? How do you get your money?
We get some support from the university, but we also have to, a lot of our money comes from soft money that we do charge for our services. We charge highly competitive prices, but we do need to raise a little bit of money to pay for some of our salaries and some of our overhead expenses.
It also gives, Dr. Brinker, students a chance to engage in the process of polling and things that they might use in a future career, for example.
Absolutely. That's an important part of our mission, too, is to give the students here experience. We've got, we always have about 4 or 5 students that work up front here with us that do more varied tasks. But we also have a calling center, a 20-station telephone interviewing calling center down the hall there, where we hire about between 40 and 50 students who work as either interviewers or supervisors down there. And it gives them really good experience. You know, they don't want to be interviewers after they get their degrees, but working down there, learning skills of cold contacting people, establishing a rapport with them, getting them to give you their time, that's a skill that almost any employer would value.
And maybe helping a little bit with college expenses at the same time.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we all know those are going up.
Dr. Gary Brinker, the presentation Dr. Brinker did, surveying the rural landscape, what journalists need to understand about the residents and health issues. That presentation in Fort Worth, Texas, as a part of the Rural Health Journalism Workshop. Dr. Gary Brinker, Director of the Docking Institute of Public Affairs at Fort Hays State University, our Community Connection.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
There's not any words to describe their kindness.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible. Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
They saved my life.